Hello. I, as you can see from the title of the video, this is just gonna be my personal rant on why it is I believe why Whitebeard didn't avenge Oden. And to be fair, it was less about the many lives who depended on him, as like was the reason given, and more that he was just kind of pissed off at Oden, you know. So I know this video is like way later than from when the original chapter dropped. But to be fair, it was only like kind of recently that I kind of stumbled upon the conclusion after like having reread the original chapter where Buggy was like explaining about Whitebeard to his crew. And following that, the build up to Marineford itself, especially the line where Capone Gang Beige was talking about why Whitebeard was considered a living legend, and then finally to Oden's flashback itself. Okay? So the thing about Whitebeard is that he has always pretty much had an ironclad reputation that if you messed with any of his crew or those who have his flag flying over their location, okay, he will pretty much hunt you down to the ends of the road to, end you with all of his might and power. Okay? Simply for the fact that he cares about those people, especially those on his crew. Okay, that was the thing that he was known most for. Okay, so then the question comes about why then didn't he avenge Oden? After all, like Oden was his, little brother, as he put it. And you could actually take the original reason, which is that, he had so many people who depended on him and he needed to be in fighting shape, tip-top fighting shape, alongside the rest of his crew, so that he could fulfill his duty as an emperor and protect those who cannot protect themselves. The reason why he lengths out his flag so much. Okay. But then you also have to think about this, and that's if he avoids conflict with those who are either as powerful as himself, like the other emperors, or nearly as powerful as himself, like the warlords or other up-and-coming rookies, okay? Like Shanks back when he was still considered a rookie, If he avoided fights with them, wouldn't his flag then completely lose all its power and meaning? Right? If you think about it. If he was the type to just avoid fights and be very calculative about who he avenges, who he doesn't, who he saves, who he doesn't, wouldn't his flag and his ironclad reputation be completely destroyed? And the answer is yes. Nobody would be able to take Whitebeard seriously if he was that type of character, and his reputation wouldn't have been able to survive for as long as he did. Remember, all the way, up until his death. In fact, even after his death, his reputation still continues to live long, and that ironclad reputation of him, never ever betraying his crewmates and always protecting those, especially those who bear his mark. If it was so easily destroyed, or if it was so easily for him to just choose and pick who to save, avenge, or whatnot, he really wouldn't have been able to keep his ironclad reputation. Not even mentioning the fact that the world government is always looking for ways to smear their enemies' names, like with O'Hara, and more comparatively, like with Roger, how they pretty much gave the carte blanche to smear Roger's very name itself, so that he will forever be remembered as the all-time worst villain out there. So then you have to take into that account, all of that, and then you basically come to the facts, and the realization that, makes no sense why Whitebeard would do such a thing. So then you have to ask, why is it then he not avenge Oden? And again, the original reason provided could be it, but after rereading all the previous stuff I mentioned, a kind of pattern forms. But before I continue to address that, let's talk about the whole Whitebeard thing. Sorry, the whole Blackbeard thing as well, okay? So regarding Blackbeard and why Whitebeard didn't want Ace to chase after him and why he gave the all clear for Ace, okay, when he said, I'll make an exception just this once, you don't have to chase after Blackbeard, was simply for the fact that by the point in time where Teach actually killed Thatch and stole his devil fruit, he had been aboard Whitebeard's ship for 26 years, okay? How I reached this number is because after the 2 years time skip where we got the flashback to Oden, we know that he joined Whitebeard's crew 30 years prior to the start of, or let's say 30 years prior to the current storyline, which is plus that 2 years time skip. So if you remove that 2 years time skip, that would be 28 years prior to the start of the story of One Piece. Then you take the 2 years he spent with Whitebeard, and that would be 26. 26, is when they first met Teach and he joined the crew of Whitebeard. So that's 26 years. A quarter of a century, okay, aboard Whitebeard's ship. And he was even offered the position of a commander. So suffice to say, all of that is more than enough to inform somebody as smart and as cautious as Whitebeard that, yeah, if this man who's been on my crew for so long, who's not made any name for himself or made a single ripple or wave, okay, when he was with me, all of a sudden commit the ultimate sin that a pirate can commit, especially aboard my ship, which the only true ironclad rule I have is that you cannot harm your own crewmates, okay? And he stole the devil fruit that Thatch had. That would mean he has had something very, very sinister and dastardly planned, okay, for him to actually take such a huge risk and put himself in such a line of fire, okay, just to run off with that single devil fruit. Thus, alarm bells and red flags started to trigger in Whitebeard's head, you would think. Hence why I'm pretty sure that's the reason why he gave the exception towards Teach. However, that doesn't mean he wouldn't have chased after Teach to murder him. But, considering Ace is really not that much more powerful than a commander, aboard Whitebeard's ship, it makes a lot more sense why he would want to, prevent Ace from chasing after Teach. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, it's a very different situation than what Oden went through with Kaido. So completely different circumstances and completely different, situation as well. So anyway, bring back to the whole why Whitebeard didn't avenge Oden point, okay? It's actually because of Whitebeard's character itself. Now, first thing is, we know that Whitebeard has actually been written to be very human, by Oda himself. We know that he gets angry, he gets sad, he has all sorts of emotions, and, it does come true once in a while, but pretty much even when it does, he has a way to rein it back in, and he's able to keep up his very much poker face, Especially when we saw after he got stabbed by Squad, after Crocodile yelled at him, and before his charge, he had that internal monologue when he talked about how he knows his own limit. He's not going to be the strongest forever and all of that, That means he is, he had that very human crisis, but he never once showed it. He never actually outwardly showed it once, okay, throughout the whole thing. It was always just bravado and confidence, because he knows without a shadow of a doubt that putting and wearing your emotions on your sleeve is one of the worst things you can do for a pirate, especially for the fact that doesn't really reflect that well on you as a captain, because he is very he has been how should I say this? He has been very much raised based on his own situation, considering how hard of a life he's come from, okay, and how long he's spent as a pirate. pretty much picked up, you would think, the skill to disguise what he's truly feeling and thinking so that it'll be much easier for him, okay, to trick this opponent and to be able to defeat them. So, yeah. So take that to the, plus the fact that Oden begged and begged and pretty much begged Whitebeard to all hell to join his crew, to join his family, then decided to take the near impossible quest that Whitebeard set up for him. Okay, and then passed it and joined Whitebeard's crew and became his family. For him then to just suddenly say, oh, I want to join Roger's crew, I want to defect and leave, that is not going to be something that Whitebeard takes kindly to. And we saw exactly how pissed off he was, especially remembering the fact that Whitebeard views family above all else to be the most important thing ever to him. And then, for essentially a family member who he loves so much to just backstab him and decide to join the crew of his greatest enemy, of course not going to make him feel nice. It's going to make him pissed off. And I know there are people out there who say, but, Whitebeard loved Roger. He liked them. They were on very good terms. And to that, I answer, doesn't matter. Because no matter how good of a term they are still rivals and enemies. Okay? So, do you think Whitebeard would actually be happy to see his own family member aboard an enemy's ship? Let alone the fact, and this is the most important, he views family as the most important thing out there. Again. Okay, and for Oden to pretty much just abandon that whole thing so easily when it was the only thing he ever wanted and he worked so hard to get it and maintain it, for Oden to then just, bye-bye. Of course he's not going to be happy. He's going to be pissed. On top of that, Oden also, remember, made a promise with Whitebeard that he would return after a year. Just a year, he said. And then what happens after a year? He retires. Not even on board Whitebeard's ship, but he retired as a member of Roger's crew. And thing is, he didn't even tell Whitebeard that face to face. Didn't even meet up with him. That was the last time Whitebeard ever saw Oden. So, two things you have to take into consideration. One, Oden pretty much threw away the one thing Whitebeard wanted the most, okay, that he considered the most important thing, and that was family, so casually. And then two, he broke his words to Whitebeard himself. And Whitebeard never saw him ever again. He only learned about things from Roger. So, it's not going to be happy about it. Basically, think Usopp versus Luffy for basically their captainship. Sure, the whole situation is not like exactly the same, but it was also for family. And we know how Zoro and the rest of the crew reacted when Usopp wanted to rejoin. They say, you got to make amends and pay because you can't just get on and leave whenever, wherever you fancy. You would make the crew look bad for one thing, and for another, that would mean the crew essentially threw away its pride, okay? And yeah, so you add on to three of those things actually, and you can pretty much understand why it is that Whitebeard would be so pissed, okay? But I'm not saying that Whitebeard would then suddenly become small-minded, man, and if Oden or his family were known to have been alive at the time, that they wouldn't have just gone back and tried and rescue him at least. I'm not, okay? I'm totally saying Whitebeard would have done that because, again, he's been written also to be not a small-minded man. He's also been written to be a very, very, very great man. But the news they pretty much got was that all of them had died. All of his family, Oden's family, all dead. Okay, that was pretty much I'm pretty sure that's the only news they got because who else is going to tell them otherwise, right? And it's the pretty much only news known by every one of the people of Wano. So it makes sense that that would be the only thing they knew. So, if he's not alive then, Whitebeard wouldn't have to go and save him or do anything, and he can wash his hand off of Oden because, Oden's dead. Why would he want to go and potentially risk the lives of his children and those who needs his protection for a man who pretty much say, screw you and your family. I much rather go join another pirate's crew and be a part of their family rather than continue on in your family, Basically, that's what he said to Whitebeard. And you can try and argue otherwise, but, that pretty much is what he said, essentially. So for Whitebeard, basically, he's just like, well, they're all dead. I ain't gonna risk my family to go and avenge them for, Oden. Okay? My alive family members, I ain't gonna risk them. So he and his family are dead. I really have no reason to set foot in Wano. And there are so many people here. Let's use that as an excuse as well, because they say best lies are those with a grain of truth makes sense, and this would actually make a lot of sense as well, Still part of Whitebeard's character where he's like, not an absolute asshole, but he is also still very much human. So this would actually be the most logical, and it's basically something I only stumbled upon, like I say, very recently, like a couple of months ago. So yeah, let me know if you agree with me or not, and I thank you so much for listening thus far, and I hope to be able to see you in my next video. Thank you, and bye-bye.